I think it's just positioning as far as timing. It's a new genre, and it just so happened that ACX was kind of gaining ground at the time that litRPG came around. I came in like right after people started discovering, oh wait, we can make money here. Yeah, I don't think that there's any reason why litRPG works better in audio than any other genre.
This is the critRPG podcast, your one-stop shop for everything litRPG, progression fantasy, and Royal Road. Hi everyone, and welcome to the critRPG podcast, the only podcast that invites people who are not Andy Parsonow's husband. With me today is Jeff Hayes, who sometimes gets mistaken for Andy Parsonow's husband, but he is indeed a voice actor, a narrator, and one of the people who run Soundbooth Theater. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. How about you, man?
I'm doing just fine. I have a nice podcast guest, so there we go. Yeah, we were talking about rabbits, corsets, underwear, BDSM, and creamer before the podcast started. Yeah. So
we definitely were.
Can't miss that. If you're saying like this, you're ruining the entire thing.
I'm not.
We actually were talking about these things.
I know. It sounds facetious. We were talking about that.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Many giggles were had. But okay, cool. Tell me about yourself. Tell me how you got into the entire thing.
Yeah, so I started narrating audiobooks after I started doing random voice actor jobs on the internet, on voices.com. And before that, I had no idea what I actually wanted to do because I knew that I wouldn't make money at what I actually wanted to do, which was music. Mm-hmm. So, and I also didn't want a real job. That was essential to my lifestyle. Yeah. I had just been laid off from the work I was doing, which was basically I was a glorified janitor. I was a maintenance guy doing stuff for my mom, who owns a bunch of real estate, a bunch of rental property. And then my folks decided to sell everything instead of follow through with grooming me to take over the business. So I was SOL. And I was like, I cannot continue to paint white walls white. I don't want to do something that's non-creative anymore. And at the same time, I was settling into the disillusionment of the idea of having a music career because I was, at the time I was way too much of a snobby artiste to move on what I was going to play. Here's the thing about music. If you want to make money at it, you have to play music that people want to listen to.
This is so interesting because it's the exact same thing for litRPG.
Yeah. But here's the thing about getting into an industry that you weren't necessarily envisioning for your whole life. You can make concessions.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, whatever. This is a job. Right?
But I have to interject here. Jeff, you are not the kind of person who is known for making concessions when it comes to anything about Soundbooth Theater. So how do we square that circle?
Going back to those interesting contradictions, right?
There we go.
So I start off with the attitude of a quote unquote professional. And, I've always been an entertainer, right? But like when you're an entertainer and you're doing obscure shit, it's putting the cart before the horse. And so when I started doing voice acting, I was just like, I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to land jobs. I got myself used to being hired for a job and doing my job. And from that perspective, since I'm not like at the time caring about the state of the acting industry or, what kind of art I'm making, okay, fine. Yeah. Just whatever it takes. But inevitably, because I got good, I started becoming fascinated with the work. And I started actually having feelings about how things should be done. But considering I never had to start from the very beginning, which is writing the damn thing, it wasn't my idea, so I can always just lean on that, right? Hey, look, I'm just doing my job to make this thing as good as possible.
He wrote it.
He wrote it, not me. Hey,
or she, obviously, but yeah. Okay.
Less often, but yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So I'm operating from a relative place of safety in that regard. But I just am the kind of person who, if I'm in a safe space, I just keep edging towards not safe, just shuffling over. And eventually I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I have responsibilities here, damn it. And and I start, putting everything I can into it. Yeah. So sound booth theater is my obsession now. I started it because I was lonely. And now where we have come, as far as we've gone, now it's about how much beauty can we bring into this medium? How much further can we push? I'm in this position now where I can take those risks and I can insist on quality. I can insist on, a more deep experience. And so that's what I'm going for. It's like I've found a way to be passionate, and that's what's kind of taken over everything. So it's no longer just a job. And thankfully, from a business perspective, I never really did treat it as a job. I always was insistent upon making everything I did into an asset rather than a simple paycheck.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I think this is more of a talk for the pub crawl. If you're talking about diversification and quality and kind of what you're doing as sound booth theater, and we have to have that talk because I'm really looking forward to it. But for now, I want to steer clear of that. It's like I usually never steer clear of anything on this podcast, as demonstrated by our talk about corsets, underwear, and BDSM. But in this case, you have to slide around a little bit and bracket it out for later. But that being said, when I think you're totally right when it comes to not just doing one thing for one thing, right? So when I'm writing, yeah, of course I'm writing to be read, yes, great. But I'm also writing to improve my craft and to have fun. And these priorities are a sliding scale. So if this is your main job, then yes, you have to write something that people actually want to read way to the top. And if you don't, then you can write something that deals with PTSD and post-traumatic stress disorder and sorry. Write something that deals with, post-humanism, post-modernism, and is a deep analysis of PTSD. You can put that on top, but maybe not many people are gonna read it. But yeah, it always depends on what you want to do, right?
Right. Well, so here's something that I think is strange about this industry is I don't know what the actual balance is there for authors, like how they're thinking. Do they think of themselves as entertainers? Do they think of themselves as artists, or do they just think of themselves as businessmen? I almost never find a blend of those things. I almost always see that that authors are following a specific path, one of those three. The ones who are artists just, they just don't go anywhere. the ones that are entertainers, right? Like, and trust me, I'm an artist first, so I get this. I have to balance all these things. If they're an entertainer, then they don't. It's like, well, I guess that's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, entertainer and business are the two things that blend the most.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that most of the entertainer mindset is the most rare. So I think that's Matt. I think that's Matt Dinneman right there. And that's probably why I get along with him so well, and why I connect with his material so well, because
the bass,
and there's also the bass part. But it's just that when
he's got all bases covered. Sorry.
Oh boy. Okay.
Was it too deep?
It was a little too deep. Okay. All right. Entertainer. He wants people to have a good time.
Yeah.
While they're reading. You know.
Have you read Dungeon Crawler, Carl?
Yeah, a couple times actually. Yeah. And then there's the business guys though, who it's almost like they don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like and it's disheartening when I see so much of that at the forefront of discussion between authors, the business aspect, because it makes me feel like people are just moving in to the space to exploit rather than to have an exchange.
And
right?
It feels manipulative.
Yeah.
You know how there's like these like huge game companies, and I think Travis Baldwin would have a field day with this topic. These huge game companies that hire more psychologists and game developers because they want to find out how to like optimize the dopamine drip, like King, for example. King.com, they have so many like psychoanalysts and psychiatrists in there that actually like optimize games not for what's most fun but what's most addictive. And I mean, there's just now this like small lawsuit against probably the wrong firms that made like a bit of a splash in the US. I think it's like EA, BioWare, Blizzard, like the big ones, and it's completely going against the wrong things. Like, you shouldn't have weapon unlocks in Call of Duty. Like, that's part of the game. I'm okay with that. But like dark patterns, like that entice people to click more often in a cash shop. We're getting totally off topic. I'm sorry, but like
no, this is not off topic. This is video games and exactly what we were talking about, business over, you know, the actual integrity of the product.
It's not about making people. It's not about building a product that satisfies people anymore. It is about adding sugar to your soda so that people want it, even though it's not good for them.
Yeah,
and that's a problem.
Yeah,
and for writing, I'm not gonna like. This is not me saying that anyone I know does this, right? Even people who go like, okay, writing as a business, I'm going to push out book after book after book. Even they could have done something completely different. The prevalent idea is, if you think you can earn money by writing and you're just doing it because of that, you might better off be working at McDonald's. Right? They are artists, but maybe they're overcompensating by talking about the business side so much. That's my perspective on it.
It could be, you know, and I hope that is the case, you know. I hope that, overcompensation because they're an artist, because they need to, you know, discipline themselves in order to make sure they're not going broke. Right? Yeah, maybe they have to lean harder into that, and that makes some sense to me. And from that perspective, it would be healthy. But you know, I've always been the kind of person within this genre, And please, litRPG people, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because this is the genre that got me where I am today, and I'm grateful. And I'm never leaving. But litRPG has always, for me, been a frustrating genre, because I think that the skill level of writers within it is just on average lower than a lot of the genres I've worked in before and enjoyed before as a consumer.
Yeah.
And I think there's good reasons for that, right? But that I still want the genre to raise its standards in that regard, and to do more to stimulate people's thought, and enhance their reading level, and just make it a more substantial genre. I think I think because I'm in it, though, and because it's new, it's frustrating. And I think that every genre that's ever become popular started like this, where it's like almost underground, right? I mean, litRPG is a small but ravenous genre. Yeah, like as far as the consumers in it. And I think it's also the fact that it is, a lower reading level, what creates a little more confidence within the listener or reader and listener base that they can do it too. So that's, one of the cool things about the reading level being low, is that it's inspirational to people, especially since this is also a genre that consists of a large demographic that never read anything for fun before they started reading litRPG. I think there's a lot more people in this genre that are readers that started that way than any other genre, maybe, or at least a higher percentage, right?
I also think that, just adding on top of the entire thing, that so many authors I talk to have two reasons why they write. One is out of passion, and the other's out of spite. Right? So one is like, oh, I can write, this is great. And the other one's like, how dare he put something like this on the market? I can do so much better. I want to show them all. And for me personally, I like a litRPG because it is such a giant free-for-all. And because people love, taking on everything that's out there and then actually going into it. That being said, we are growing. We're massively growing. And for people who might now think, oh my God, my easy, casual reading experience is going away. No. Because, just because Glass Onion exists doesn't mean that you can't read your dime novel crime stories anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So they're still out there. You might just have to become comfortable with the fact that now people are like looking more at this, and they're having their highbrows lowered or whatever. I don't know. But I think it's a huge market still. And in the end, it is just fantasy with numbers. Right? Fantasy with numbers that center around progression.
From a publisher standpoint, I would say that's right. And I also have to give credit to the way I entered this genre and the genre itself in making me less of a snob. Right? I think that's, I'm heavily snob bred, like as far as how my mind kind of developed as a younger person, and listening to music. Really, that's kind of where a lot of my art foundation is. Being younger and frustrated with pop, for instance, I don't have that same frustration anymore. I get it now. And I don't have the same disdain for the audience that likes the dumb shit. anymore. In fact, I find it endearing, because that is what is feeding the smart shit.
Exactly.
Right?
All right, you said it yourself.
Yeah, you can't have highbrow art if you can't pay for it, because highbrow art is often, it requires those resources to experiment with. If you have nothing, then all art is like waiting for Godot, like two dudes on a stage with two boxes, that's it.
Even
We can't have all art be that
yeah.
either. We need the spectacle, we need the popcorn, we need people having fun with just a silly good time to power and contrast even against the stuff that's highbrow and artistic and all that. So I'm a much more balanced person because of it, I think, and I appreciate probably all people so much more now that I've put myself through having to be a professional.
And even just philosophically speaking, you can't have highbrow without having lowbrow, right? That's how humans work. We contrast each other. We contrast with other things. We divert into light and dark. Binary, right? Yeah, that's also one of the reasons why we struggle so hard with quantum mechanics and quantum computing, because it's very hard for humans to even think about things that you could use like quantum computing for, right? Because it's not just 1 or 0, it's many different things. But yeah, so there's so many good topics in there. I don't know what I'm going for, but I just want to kind of point out once more that just because the art form or the book is written for the masses doesn't mean it's bad. That's a very, very bad measurement of how good something is.
Yes.
What you want to do is you want to see what the art is trying to do, and does it succeed? Does, I don't know, the Marvel movies, do they want to ask deep philosophical questions about the meaning of life? No, they don't. They want to make you entertained and feel cool, right? Yeah. If you use that same measuring stick on Citizen Kane is a terrible movie.
Yep.
Right? So there you go. And so here's to the snobs and here's to the non-snobs, right? Because
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's bad in that sense. As long as someone likes it, it's not bad.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that far, but
okay, I can see how that sentence would be very problematic, and I would like to retract it. Yes,
but yeah, I mean, the thing that still kind of gets me sometimes is when it's random. When someone just releases something that is like craftsmanship, just terrible, and still it gets really popular. Where someone just kind of rolled the dice and it could have been anybody, and it just happens to check all these boxes. I still struggle with that a bit, because I think it falls along the line of what you were saying before about the microtransactions with video games, where it's almost a manipulation of the system, right? Rather than an achievement. Yeah, if it's done with intent, right? But they just stumble upon it. That almost always is accompanied by a giant ego. Right?
Okay.
Like, so
but those are two different things.
They are. And so if someone makes a hit by accident and they're humble about it, then okay, all right, that's all right. But like, if someone makes a hit by accident and then they think they're one of the great authors of our time, I think that's more frequent. I think that happens more often than the former, and it's just annoying to watch. It's annoying to watch that kind of come about.
I mean, I've interviewed like 38 authors now.
Uh-huh.
I haven't met a single one who thinks they're great.
Hmm.
The only I only know one author who's like, yeah, okay, I think at my level of success, I no longer have the right to have imposter syndrome. But everyone else is still deeply thinking about like, what's the next book? Can I still do this tomorrow?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because our field isn't big enough yet, right? So I haven't talked to, I don't know, J.K. Rowling, right? Who does have some opinions that where I would be like, are you aware of your presence? And do you maybe want to reconsider? But at the same time, yeah, I think with some caveats, I would agree with your statement that is sometimes annoying. But on the other hand, everyone makes it by accident. There isn't anyone, like, you can write the most perfectly crafted book ever. If
Absolutely.
it doesn't hit the right series of people at the right time, and someone talks about it, it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Example: This Is How You Lose a Time War. That book, no one read that book. I mean, I did, but because I like Max Gladstone. But then some random guy called Bicolus Wolfwood on Twitter says, like, read this book full stop, and doesn't even post a link, just a picture. And people go mad about it, and it hits the number one best-selling thing on Amazon for like 10 weeks straight. That's luck.
Yeah,
and it is a great book. So
right, so it's like you're just watching this one person or this one instance, and it does seem random, but then you like take in the totality of everything, and it's just like, okay, each of these people is writing to the best of their ability, and they're all entering the same market, and there's an element of luck involved, of course, but you have to have the skill to take advantage of the opportunities when they arise.
Okay.
So it's you're playing the numbers to a certain extent. You have skill to a certain extent. But it's the same as like in a video game, any D&D tabletop or whatever. There's still a roll of the dice, and you can still roll a 20 or a 1. You know.
But in that case, I think it's very, very important to underscore that you do admit there's skill involved.
Yeah.
It's just the ego check afterwards that really annoys you.
Yeah. By the way, my favorite author is someone who no one reads. No one,
Stephanie Meyer?
Neil Barrett Jr. Go look at his Amazon, and you'll see nothing but losses, nothing but just big whiffs. Neil Barrett Jr. Barrett.
Like the guy from Final Fantasy?
Actually, his Neil is also just a little different. Neal. Usually it's Neil. And man, it's just all, you would think it's all crap, especially looking at the covers, just bad publishing, bad covers. And he died in obscurity. And, I think he may have never written a bad sentence. like he's absolutely incredible. And I have loved everything I've read by him. So, it's strange how things work in that regard.
He has one that no, actually that's an omnibus. Holy cow, you are right. This guy has like 4, 5. The only ones that are like over 20 ratings are omnibuses.
Yep.
Omnibuy.
Yep.
That is insane.
Yep. But
how do you find them?
I auditioned for one of his books, Stress Pattern. This was super early in my career. I auditioned for the book. A couple days later, I get an email. You got the job. By the way, the author died yesterday. And I didn't, it was just another job to me. Okay,
Mm.
well, all right. Then I narrated the damn thing, and I was like, this is a work of absolute genius. What the fuck?
Mm.
So I just kept investigating his work, and I
Mm.
just kept reading more and more.
Mm.
So hopefully one day I'll be able to, like, I don't know. I've sort of tried to talk to his estate.
Mm.
They're, you know, they're skeptical, and they should be. But
Mm.
I just haven't closed a deal yet. I think I
Mm.
just need to pony up a bunch of cash and make it
Mm.
happen. But
Mm. Yeah, man. Okay, this is interesting. This is very interesting indeed, because yeah, like even if we're looking at, I don't want to call it a kiddie pool. This is not a kiddie pool. This is very much the start of many people's career, like Royal Road, right? There's still so much that it doesn't just take good writing. Good writing is important, and you have to have a certain standard, which we just established is lower than most other environments. Mostly also, this is helped by the fact that people like this, and if you write a bit more than the standard, they can't read it in the subway anymore, right? So then suddenly it's like, oh my god, now I have to think. I actually had like one guy tell me, like, in the time it takes me to understand one of your sentences, I could have read at least 10 more books, which is a very backhanded compliment. Thank you very much, Kay. He was joking. It would have taken him 40. Anyway, no. But then, like, because people like stuff that's easy to understand. Like, heck, I like stuff that's easy to understand when I'm reading litRPG. I want the hero to win. I want to go in there with the knowledge of, like, hey, this is amazing, and the hero is going to win, and everything's going to be fine in the end.
yeah,
Which brings you to Dungeon Crawler Carl,
right,
where that is not the case.
right, yeah,
But he tricks you into thinking it is.
yeah,
If you don't speak Spanish. If you speak Spanish, you understand you're in for a ride at the very, very start.
mm-hmm.
But just at this example of Matt, and this is to close that circle, I guess. He's so good at what he does because he loves writing what he does, but like, and I don't mean this in the bad way, but he does add a lot of sugar to his soda.
Mm-hmm.
So people still read it, right? So
Yeah,
the main protagonist, which is obviously Donut, not Carl, is hilarious and funny and relatable and super deep and super complex. She has like lots of fears and other issues, and is very relatable. And then she puts all that in this like fun little candy bar, which
yeah,
is great. So you can laugh while you're think about your existence and why it probably sucks.
yeah, yeah. Man, Dungeon Crawler Carl is this phenomenon that touches every important point in entertainment, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It number one, I think it puts a mirror up to society.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
in
like,
so many
starting
different ways.
Yeah, starting from the deepest level, in my opinion. Like this, it
So-
does. It's
I read the 5th book and I was like, "What happened to you at DragonCon, Matt? What do you want to tell us? Please touch the puppet where the audience touched you."
yeah. So it does that. It has thrills, right? The action is intense, and the description of the action is vivid and evocative. Then you have amazing characters that are both hilarious and highly I don't know how to put it, like
Relatable?
Relatable is not quite right, because I feel like relatable is kind of the word that you use to say everyman, or to say to say blank, like protagonist, right? Like I think it's more than relatable. It's understandable, maybe, like their motivations and their character traits line up. Everything they feel like they live in the world.
Yeah, they're realistic.
Yeah.
There's like Secret of the Story by Matt Bird. He writes about make characters believable, and I think that's a good word for it.
Believable. There we go. Believable. That's really the word. And believability in entertainment. We're all illusionists. That believability is the hand everyone sees.
Yeah.
So there's that. It's hilarious. It's like I have never laughed so hard in the booth than with Dungeon Crawler, Carl.
Yeah, I've seen your cold reads. I've seen the supercuts of you laughing. It's hilarious.
And it's the hilarity is juxtaposed perfectly with terror and dread and hopelessness. You know, and it just keeps going back and forth, and it just keeps you on your toes as you're reading / listening.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, and I don't know if we'll cut this or not, but I probably will, because I will never talk anything bad about people on the podcast. I think he slipped at the end of the 5th book. Okay. I really think he slipped off when it's like, okay, Katya is now addicted to death sticks. And also, like, this is like obvious collision course between Donut and her, and like one of them is gonna die. And yeah, maybe he's gonna come out of it. But I read it and I was like, okay, you lost me, Matt. You lost me. I just can't anymore. Like, I just can't. And I haven't picked up the 6th book.
Wait, so hold on. It's the fact that Katya and Donut are on this collision course that you just don't want to see that happen. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm just too fragile of a flower. No, for me it was like he has demonstrated time and time again that he is willing to have bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
And for me, this is like, I can't stand the tension anymore. I don't know if this is going to end well. And yeah.
So I will put forth that this is still a compliment to him.
It is.
Okay. The fact that you care so much about both of those characters that you cannot bear the idea of watching this conflict.
It is tremendous work of art. Like, I love this book so much. But I just I'm not in the right mind space to do it right now. Because I'm very anxious. And the fact that something like a book, and by the way, I'm reading that. All right, I haven't listened to the audiobooks yet. Please don't kill me. The fact that just by reading this book, I can feel that amount of emotion is, like you said, it's a big compliment to what he has achieved.
Yeah, I would encourage you not to edit that out.
Okay, cool. Then I might actually leave it in.
I think that Matt would appreciate it.
Yeah, he would. Like, what I know from him, he would.
Yeah.
Maybe it's also why he hasn't shown up to the show yet. Calling you up, Matt. Nah. I was speaking to I think it was Carol X, Zoltan Massari, the author of Manocloop, and I think she said she talked to him at Comic-Con. And if you don't know Carol X, she's a very sweet person. And she walked up to him and said, like, hey, Matt, but Dungeon Crawler Carl's going to end well, right? And Matt just looks at her, goes like, and walks away.
Yeah. I don't know either. I don't know what he's going to do, man. Yeah. I don't know.
But you're in for the ride now, so here we go.
I am 100% in for the ride. I am just as much a fan of the series as I am, someone who's participating in it. I honestly don't want to know until it's out. I don't even follow the Patreon. So
I mean, I wouldn't have put a cameo of someone, throwing exploding cats and wearing underwear in my books if I didn't like the book as much as I did. So I don't know. It's great, but in the immortal words of one of my ex-girlfriends, we are enemies. But that always gets me. Like, she's a very very cute short girl, and she was talking about like pets they had at their house the flat that they lived in, and it's like, oh yeah, we have a turtle. It's called Bubbles. I'm like, oh wow, a turtle. He's like, yeah, it's called Bubbles. We're enemies. Like, okay, that's it's adorable, but also quite kind of frightening. Yeah. So same way. I'm not sure I should call Matt them and Bubbles if I want to survive the night, but anyway. This brings me to like another question that we have to kind of do before we're getting into the next stage of the podcast. The most boring one, the one is always asked: any tips for aspiring voice actors? Don't? Okay, good.
Yeah, actually, that is my answer. Don't do it, because I think that the space is kind of saturated.
Well, it's a new ad. If you are interested in having your story shouted out on this podcast, please reach out to me under critrpg.podcast@gmail.com. But in the meantime, why not check out the old version of my book Torchbearer? You can find it on Royal Road, and there's a link down below. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening and or watching, and I hope you're enjoying the show.
And you really need to have a vision to stand out. Now, if you have a vision, me saying don't do it isn't going to matter.
Yeah.
Right? But we need less people in the space driving prices down. That's the real.
Now we have again this convergence of entertainer, businessman, and artist.
Right? But seriously, a lot of the people in this space are here for a job.
Yeah.
I know. They treat it like a job. And they're also, crying because robots are taking over the jobs.
You got to show up. You got to show up and put the work in. I talked to several authors after the recording stops and everything about AI and all kind of stuff. And the prevalent idea is that yes, AI is going to raise the bar significantly, because not right now, because it's basically autocorrect on crack. It still can't understand anything, so it's not gonna like form any coherent narrative. But Google Bard is out and has a 200,000 word context window by default, up to 1 million, and that can, in theory, make a story. A good one, I don't know, but it can make a story. And the same thing is true for narrators, I believe.
100%. AI doesn't make decisions.
Yeah.
That's the difference between someone like me and AI. And I don't know if that gap can ever be bridged, right? I don't know. I mean, theoretically, I suppose it inevitably will. But for now, I'm 100% not worried, because AI solves problems. AI fulfills formulas, right? AI is only if X, then Y.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really great at spitting out a formula, and that's what narrators have been trained to do for the past 30 years when it comes to audiobooks. Come up with a formula as a narrator so that you can move on to the next job as quickly as possible and optimize how much you're paid per year.
Which is, again, we were talking about this with the authors earlier, right? About like the entire idea of 20 books, 50K is that. Don't care about your book, just get it done and get it out, and hopefully someone will like it. Yeah. I don't subscribe to that, but apparently it worked for some people.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong about that either. I think that there is definitely merit in that strategy, so long as it's just your opening strategy, so long as it's maybe the first 2 or 3 years of your career.
Yeah.
But once you actually build a following, once your name means something specific, then you got to drop that, because now you're just devaluing the rest of everything that you're doing, not the least of which the rest of the market that aren't you. Like if you're just releasing stuff, you're getting experience, right? You're grinding, you're leveling up as a writer, you know, you're forcing yourself to complete things, which people don't realize is a feat in and of itself. It is difficult to write a bad novel and finish it. Right?
In my private, like, small Discord with my friends, we're having this we have the trash challenge right now. We're challenging each other to, like, just write the biggest trash that we can and put it on Railroad. Not because we like the idea is to write something that no one will ever read, but still put it out there, right?
Yeah.
And the person who goes back to edit loses, because that means they care too much. The idea is to combat the perfectionism that you know, battles some of us. Like me, for example, I've rewritten Torchbearer 2 times, right? Like 240K novel 2 times from scratch, which is not recommendable. I will not do it again. But yeah, sorry, that was.
But you have to do it. That's the thing. Is like, I'm going to commend you for doing that, for writing a 240,000 word novel, saying this isn't good enough, and trying again. You know, you're getting the same reps in, maybe even better reps, because you're targeting. It's like you're targeting specific things. You're recognizing the flaws within the first work that you did, and you're reiterating, okay, these are the ways to improve it. So you now have two literally opposing versions of the same thing, and you can witness that contrast as you go along. If you are a right to market author, you're kind of doing the same thing. You write a novel, it checks these certain boxes, people pick it up. You still have problems with the novel you just released, but you're not going back to correct that. You're just going on to the next novel and keeping those mistakes in mind, and trying to improve on the formula, right?
And I think that's dope. Seth Ring went on record saying this in his own show, I think, when we talked about it. He said that his promise to the readers is not, I'm going to make this book better, but I'm going to make the next one better, right? Which is, I think, a very valid promise to make. For me, I just fall in love with my characters too much. I want to give my babies the best chance of success that they can.
Yeah.
So maybe, but that's a different thing. In the sphere that we're in, that is not rewarded at all. People don't care.
It's not financially rewarded. That's correct.
Exactly, right? And I don't think it is rewarded in trap publishing or in the bigger spheres either. The amount of authors that actually can earn a living off of their writing is vanishingly small. Because like they are forced to rewrite because before that book can even see a reader, it has to see someone who like reads thousands of novels a year and picks the best ones. An agent or an editor or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So is that better? I don't know. But for sure, the advent of self-publishing has changed a lot.
Yeah. I think in theory, it should be better, right? People who are seasoned, experienced within the publishing industry, within, you know, they've seen, like you said, read thousands of books, and they understand the craft. That in theory makes sense that they would be gatekeeping to a certain extent to make sure that the quality of the things that they publish stays high, you know? But I don't think in practice it's been working out that way, because I think traditional publishing is Suits.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Totally. Oh my God. Don't get me started on this topic. People who listen to this podcast know I have many opinions about how big organizations are being run, because it's my main job. I'm an agile coach. I go into organizations, I fix them, try to fix them. No, wait, people tell me I should fix them, and then they don't want to change. So,
right.
yeah.
Right.
But,
so So you're paid as a consultant to tell them things that they're going to ignore.
Even worse, I'm getting hired and I'm going to be employed in the company. So you have even less things I can change.
Gotcha.
No,
Yeah.
it's not as bad as I make it sound.
Yeah.
There are many companies that actually do want to change, and many people that actually like it. But it's the bad ones that you keep in mind. But yeah, I didn't want to like derail from your argument there. It is very true. There are suits up there, and also the idea that one person can speak for literally a billion people that will potentially read a book is insane. This is not. It's been proven over and over again that one single person cannot gauge the interest of a market. If that person existed, they would be rich beyond our most absurd dreams that everyone would want as time.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Her time.
Yeah, I think that the reason that traditional publishing and that theory fails in practice is because of the size. I think it's geez, come on, people, just leave me alone.
Edit.
What we're experiencing right now in our history is decentralization, fractalization, and it's because of the internet, right? Because we all are able to communicate with each other and can kind of see what's happening at any time within any market. Centralization is no longer very valuable. In fact, it's a hindrance because it's so unwieldy, and in order to maintain your authority in a system that's so centralized, you basically have to lie all the time. Like your entire front has to be of success that you're not having. In order to just keep the lights on.
In a centralized or in a decentralized system?
In centralized.
Because I would say the same for decentralized too. Think of influencers.
Okay.
Right? Because they also have to build up a front.
Yeah. We're all entertainers. We all have to some degree.
Also team spirit.
Right? But it's not I wouldn't say that's the core of what makes us successful.
Well,
right?
I don't know about myself, but about you, yeah, okay.
I think at the core of what makes us successful is actually the product. And if it weren't for that, we wouldn't. It wouldn't matter how much we spout how successful we are. We don't have the funding to keep that lie up.
Let me introduce you to the wonders of venture capitalism.
Okay.
I mean, how many companies have started in the last 30 years that have gone nowhere? OpenAI hasn't earned a single cent yet. They're deep in the minus. Uber is deep in the minus. Spotify was only profitable after 12 years. It was big news because it was one of the only venture capital founded startups that actually made money. There are some people out there who have so much money that they don't care about the fact that they can spend billions of dollars on startups that will probably fail. They don't care. And no one needs many of these products, right? Like, for example, Instagram. Yes, I want a way to communicate with my friends and show them pictures and maybe discover new ones. I don't need the ads. I don't need the news feeds. I don't need TikTok. I don't need all that kind of stuff. All that stuff is doing is get me addicted and get me to spend more time so people can earn more money from ads. I don't need that. That is not a product that I need. Right? So in that case, it's not the product that sells. And this goes back to the Candy Crush saga thing we talked about earlier, right? King.com. The product is bullshit. It's the sugar they put into it that makes you want it, the dopamine, the addiction that actually gets people to buy it. But that's beside the point of like venture capitalism, which is you don't have to have a good product to be successful. You just have, like, depending on how you measure success.
Well, I mean, you were just saying, you said Uber hasn't made a profit yet.
I don't think Uber has. Like, I'm not quite sure. I can check it out.
So I don't think that means that people don't need it. It just means that it took way more R&D in the market to find out what it was that people needed. Right? That's how I know it's relatively controversial to say this, but I'm a supply side guy.
Mm-hmm.
You start with supply, and demand follows.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
People don't know what they want until it's available.
I should also
they may have
myself.
problems. If they may have problems, they may have a desire for the problem to be solved, but that doesn't, until that manifests into a product, there's no demand being asserted there on the market.
Yeah,
so Uber comes out with this idea and people play with it. And they have experiences and things go back and forth. And, Uber continues to invest in this experiment. And hopefully for them, they make a profit. Meantime, competitors pop up. And that's what decentralization is. The more free the market is for competition to emerge, that's the beauty of decentralization.
However, the rule of the internet is strongest survives. Uber has made a profit last year.
Okay.
DoorDash and Lyft keep making bigger and bigger losses as Uber grows.
Okay.
All right. So, for example, Yahoo search doesn't exist. Lycos doesn't exist. Google exists, and there's like other things that maybe 5% of all people use. Right? Google has one, period. Amazon spends billions of trying to get into the market that Spotify is in. No dice. They're still not into that. Of course, Amazon can do that because they have the money out of AWS, which for some reason Microsoft has managed to like break into with Azure, but it's still a bit of a toss up. And their cloud system is like, it's going to tilt her a little bit soon. You are completely right in the sense that, yes, you have to figure out what the problems of people are, and then try to solve the problem, and then try to earn money out of it. I'm just so worried about the fact that at some point, especially when there's venture capital involved, it no longer becomes about solving a problem and more about selling people solutions to problems that they might not even have. Uber, for example, didn't solve a problem. It didn't solve a problem that like normal taxis couldn't have solved. It broke up the entire idea of taxis, sure. And it gave us an app that made it easier to get a taxi, but taxis existed before that.
So let me first address, Amazon, Uber, and their dominance in their respective markets. How long have they been around? I mean, even Amazon, 25 years?
1995. So
30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. How long, do you know how long Sears Roebuck was around before they went under?
Who?
More than 100 years. And when they started, they were a revolution, right?
What did they do?
Sears Roebuck basically started the retail industry as we know it.
Okay.
Right? By shipping their goods across the country, and having a sophisticated system for getting all these inventories into these big warehouses where they can then sell it directly to people. They were around for more than 100 years before they went under. Amazon hasn't had any. And by the way, I just had this conversation with somebody else, so in private. So Amazon's only been around for 30 years, and they didn't always dominate the market, right? They started with something small, just
books,
trading used books, right, online, and they expanded into what they are now. The difference here is that Sears Roebuck blew up immediately, you know, when their thing got started compared to Amazon. What also is different is that in their space, Sears Roebuck didn't have any competitors. You have to have tons of money to compete with that. Well, Amazon at this moment, yeah, you need a ton of money to compete, but not as much money as you needed 5 years ago. Right?
That's true.
They have already done the investment. They have already shown everybody what works and what doesn't. So any competitor that comes into the market now has a much shorter hurdle to jump over. Like a lot of the work is done for them, and Amazon's the company that did all the investment to find out what that is. So that's the difference here. Yeah, Lyft came out. I mean, I don't remember a time where there was Uber and there wasn't Lyft. Right? I don't know who started, honestly. Was it Uber?
Yeah,
I mean,
think so.
I tend to think it is, but I've not looked it up. So because they're so close together, they're neck and neck almost as far as the amount of investment in figuring out this problem, right? Anyone who starts a new Uber or Lyft service now has all of that work done for them already. They get to get a head start, kind of. And the difference for them is just going to be reach. How do they get this app into more people's phones to demonstrate that they're able to do it better, if they are able to do it better?
So basically your answer is don't do it.
My answer is don't do it unless you have a vision.
Exactly. Okay, so let me just say something real quick here. I am beyond impressed at your spontaneity in answering and like in picking that back up. That was excellent. Very much. Well done. Let me applaud you.
Thank you.
Because we have to get to the next question. But we will continue this conversation in the stuff on Patreon for sure, because I kind of want to talk to you about like Amazon and Audible and that kind of stuff too, because it would be great if there would be some decentralization there. I totally agree with you. We also already kind of talked a little bit about voice acting in litRPG, what's different about it. But yeah, tell me more about that. Nothing's different.
It's just I think it's just positioning as far as timing, you know. It's a new genre. And it just so happened that ACX was kind of gaining ground at the time that litRPG came around. So people like me found, oh, hey, this is a budding genre. I came in like right after people started discovering, oh, wait, we can make money here. So the big narrators just happened to see, oh, look, these are the people who are paying right now. So those are the jobs they took. I don't think that
fell in love with it.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any reason why litRPG works better in audio than any other genre. Like specific to the content itself. I think it's all about the narration. Yeah,
because I think like it works so well because of the length. People getting more, and the distribution model of Audible, which is 1 credit per book. So people do get a lot of book per credit. Like you get a lot of, it makes it seem more valuable, even though you're still paying $9.99.
I mean, maybe, but look at Epic Fantasy. Epic Fantasy's probably got a higher page count on average per book than litRPG.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I mean, I don't think so. Look at like Wheel of Time, Look at
Ye-
look at Game of Thrones. I don't know.
Wheel of Time, I think, has
200,000 words?
less.
Less than 200,000?
Actually, it has 300,000. You are completely right. I am surprised. I for sure thought that litRPG has had like more words than Eye of the World. Okay.
I don't think so. And this current trend of litRPG being thicker novels, I don't think that was how it was from the get-go either.
Oh no, it wasn't.
I think
it was very much like romance.
Yeah, it was like this thicker novel thing came because litRPG was doing so well in audio, and because authors knew about that hack, right? Oh, the longer my book is, the more valuable it's going to be on Audible.
And also, it's serialized anyway. So why not just put my, I don't know, Primal Hunter big chunk?
Yeah.
Put it out there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can come up with, more reasons why litRPG is better in audio than anything else if you want. I'll try and address any reason you might have, but I firmly believe it's just market. It's just how it happened to come about, timing wise.
Which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
For us, certainly.
For us, certainly not.
Yeah. No, I mean, and also I don't think for the reader. I think for the reader or listener, I also don't think it's a bad thing. In the end, everyone kind of wins.
Yeah, I mean that's maybe another reason, right? Like I said before, there's a huge portion of the litRPG reader base that didn't read for fun until they found litRPG. Yeah. The same can be said about audio, right? People didn't even know that audiobooks were a thing until they started finding their favorite litRPG stuff on Audible. And then they started listening to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I started litRPG because I found He Who Fights with Monsters on Audible. I mean, I had read Sufficiently Advanced Magic before, but it didn't really grip me at the time. And now that I've read it again, I'm like, okay, I can see where he's going with this. But yeah, I got He Who Fights with Monsters because it was the longest book I could find on Audible. That was all the reason to do it. And yeah, great. All right. I kind of want to ask more, but I kind of have to go on to one book that you love, and why is it awesome?
One book that I love. Okay. Do you want me to put forth a surprising answer, or just? Okay.
This is very much me asking open, powerful coaching questions.
Powerful coaching questions. Okay. Yeah. One book that I love. All right, I'm not going to name something that I've narrated because, okay, here we go. V for Vendetta.
A graphic novel.
I am a comic book obsessed moron. And Alan Moore is, I think, the best comic book writer ever by a long shot. He's not my favorite. But he's the best.
Okay.
Pure composition.
Okay.
Like command of the language and pure composition. I think V for Vendetta is like a perfect graphic novel. I also think that Watchmen is a perfect graphic novel. But I'm going to say V for Vendetta because it's got such an irreverent tone and such a deep message. And the art, that's the thing about graphic novels and comic books that I love so much, is the collaboration between the artist and the writer, and the lack of convolution when it comes to that. It's mainly these two creatives and their efforts. There's a few details that get worked out by different workmen here and there, right? But it's mainly those two, and so it's still a relatively pure product when it comes to entertainment. There's not a whole lot of producers in the credits that are arguing behind the scenes and finding ways to fuck up what the writer and artist are trying to achieve.
You mean systematically they are trying to prove a reason why the job exists?
Right.
This is what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, and I'm trying not to
That's cool.
toot my own brand.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think I can ask at this point, voiced dungeon crawl Carl comic when?
We'll see. Whenever it comes out, we'll see.
Sure.
Everyone knows, I guess, that Aethon Books picked up the license to do the web comic.
If they didn't know until now, then now they do.
Yeah. So, it was announced. It's public record.
Yes.
So that's happening. But we already have the audio immersion tunnel.
Yes. Which I think is a wonderfully disgusting name.
Right.
It's I don't know. I mean, I hear that, I see that, I read that, and I always think of flesh tunnel for some reason. It's just so disgusting.
That's on brand, man.
Yes. I think if this had been like the like He Who Fights with Monsters audio immersion tunnel, I would have thought about like stars and maybe traveling the cosmos. But with Matt Dinneman, who again we are enemies, he just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
I think of disgusting fleshy abominations. Mm-hmm. So think of that what you will.
Yeah. Matt would be so proud.
I keep doing that.
So there's already that, but like, I can imagine taking one of those webtoons, and what would need to happen is you would need to hit, turn on the sound, and either the scrolling happens on its own, or the listener / reader would have to like be careful about timing it themselves.
Marvel did something like this.
Oh, really?
A while ago, like 10 years ago already. They had a comic, and they just added sound effects, so it was different. But I think it would be super easy to kind of like read out the speech bubble as it appears on the screen. So that could be kind of cool, but also like redundant.
Motion comics is what they call them. And there's a lot of amateurs doing it on YouTube, and they can be quite entertaining. We've played with that a bit. We have actually a motion comic project in the works now. We're just about to sign a deal with Visitors Publishing for one of their graphic novels. We're going to do that on Kickstarter.
Cool.
So yeah, it's in the works. There's also another. I'll go ahead and leak a little bit. There's another author that's very prominent to Sound Booth Theater, who's working on a graphic novel of their series. And I think it's going to be, I've read, they've done more than 200 pages already. I've read them, and it's fantastic. I'm very excited about this graphic novel coming out at some point, but we will definitely be doing an audio, a motion comic of it and promoting it that way. If we don't just incorporate it as a product on our app. We're rebooting our app now, so we're actually designing it to where it's much easier to add different types of media. So video will be a thing that we are making available on our app.
That was like a beautiful combination of self-promotion and shout out. I love it. Let me just Google it. Sound Booth Theater. Oh, look, soundbooththeater.com. That's interesting. So who series? Let's just, okay, I can't sort it. Okay, but just so like looking at the ratings and scores and see who it could be. Oh,
who could
interesting.
It
be? Yeah, I mean, like if you want to know, you can also go to soundbooththeater.com and check it out.
Yeah, you could.
And go through the entire catalog and try and see who it is and maybe pick up a book or two.
This info will be in our newsletter someday.
Someday. But you can know it first.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it actually brings us to shout outs. Let's go.
Okay. Shout outs. Let's shout out to all the other narrators you've had on this channel. Travis Baldry, right?
Travis.
And Heath Miller was on here, wasn't he?
Yes, and Andrea. And by the time this podcast releases, also Justin.
Ah, yes, Justin. Hopefully Annie will be on here sometime.
Just in time.
Oh, just in time.
So you were saying?
Yeah, Annie. I was saying. Hopefully
Annie
will be on here someday. Have you listened to anything with her as the narrator, or just
no.
her and voices? No. Okay.
What's her full name?
Annie Ellicott.
Nope.
Okay. You'll discover at some point. Yes. I actually watched Andy's entire podcast on here.
Cool.
And she's just so great in podcasts. She's a good person to interview. So
her Patreon was amazing too. Like it's got like really, really heart wrenching. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm sure her fans are amazing. And, I wish more narrators would represent, right? I wish more narrators would take more control of this market instead of allowing the suits to run it. And, that's independent publishing in a nutshell is, the people that are creating the content need to understand the business, need to be out there promoting it, and so that their opinion matters more, because they're the ones interacting directly with the customer. Narrators, we are the medium through which you're experiencing these books a lot of the time. So they need to realize they're ambassadors of the brand. Right? Whatever they're narrating, and if they don't seize that, then other people are going to always be shaping our destiny.
Yeah.
So Andy, Travis, Heath, thank you guys for coming on here and talking about what we do.
Thank you.
And Justin, of course, but he's on my team. That goes without saying.
Yeah. And I think this like starts with a commitment to craft, and this is how we close that loop.
Yeah.
Because just like writers, it's very tempting because, of course, of the fixed rates and not royalty share and all that kind of stuff. It's super easy to think like, okay, look, I'm just going to show up, I'm going to read the book, and that's it. But still doing the best job that you can in the limited amount of time that you have, and then really trying to make your book shine, or the book that you're reading shine, I think is very important. Cool.
Absolutely.
All right. This should be it for the YouTube content.
All right.
Any last words?
Thank you, everybody, for listening to litRPG, for listening to Sound Booth Theater. If it weren't for all of you, this lifestyle would not be available to me.
Lifestyle of corsets, BDSM, and creamer?
Yes, of course. Those are very expensive things to be involved in on a regular basis. So, thank you for allowing me to do those things, and allowing me to be steeped in what I love to do, and to reach a level of excellence that I hope I can continue to one up. I always want to do better than I already did. So thank you, everybody.
All right, cool. Those were very good last words. I don't have anything to add, but if you think the takeaway of this is Jeff Hayes hates litRPG, then it's the wrong takeaway for sure. You should listen to the podcast again. All right.
Yeah,
everyone.
you might, if you're not listening carefully. I get it.
I don't think you said that. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening and or watching. Please do check out my Patreon, where you can have more of this guy and myself talk. And also a lot of other narrators, authors, and other creatives. Cool. Again, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you next time.